Hi, everyone. Welcome to our next segment of Watch and Learn. This is our monthly 2026 series that we're offering for free. And I hope that you've been enjoying the so far of what we've been able to bring to you. My name is Suzanne, and I am CIDESCO Certified Esthetician. I've been in the industry for over 30 years now, and former spa owner in the last more than a decade into educating and mentor professionals. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying it. So today will be chemical peels year round and how to treat safely in every session. So as I mentioned, if you do have questions, to keep it near the end because I'll have time for that. I'll set time for that for sure. And like I said, if you do have something come up, Doreen's assisting us in the chat side of it. Unfortunately, I can't see it. So Doreen, if you need to unmute at any time to stop me, feel free to do so. So today, please keep in mind, this is educational. It's not a certification at all. So if you have not done a course formally in chemical peels, whether it was through your whole aesthetics program or facial technician, whatever it may be, this is just about focusing on, for those that have already done chemical peels, or maybe you're interested in it, and then you can kind of see the different options that are out there. So today, we're going to focus on that safe, adaptable treatment planning and, maybe reframe your mindset a little bit. So let's dive in. Today's session, our focus is going to be the truth about peel season. What changes in the peel season to season, as they say, and why barrier first approach to peels, how to adjust peel protocols year round, safe summer peels, what this actually looks like, keep peels on your menu year round, and I have a couple scenario based to walk you through as well, kind of the common things that we see in the treatment rooms. And at the end, some Q&A. So let's dive in. So where did this idea come from, this peel season? So historically, we were always limited to fall and winters, how we were educated on this, which is still the safest place to do it, absolutely, for most part. But, it simplifies things a little bit. It keeps it easy. It keeps it safe. And if you think about it, it was probably because maybe the training was at a higher strength, those aggressive peels. That's what they used to be. If I go back to when I first was introduced to peels many, many, many moons ago, it was aggressive. It was crazy how strong they were. And people used to peel like snakes all the time. And that was encouraged too. So things have evolved since then. And that's why, education is always a good thing, and keeping yourself up to date with protocols and changes and know your product line ingredients. The other thing too, with that, they were less advanced formulations, I'll say. Again, a lot of brands are using different ingredients within the peel acids, not just straight peels. So there's different protocols have changed throughout time. And again, that's science and looking forward and understanding skin more. So the ideal of peel season, it came from a time where we were using, again, the stronger, more aggressive peels with less control and less client education as well. And so naturally, professionals, we would lean towards the months with less sun exposure, hence less probably any issues that could occur. So in that safety zone, right? And the other thing, if you go back to your education, I can remember it, even though it was that long ago, it was better safe than sorry. Being new in the industry, they kept it very safe until you could evolve and learn. And like I said, everything's changed so much, even in the last 5 years with skin physiology and the science behind it and products and everything, right? So again, naturally, we're going to lean towards the safe zone of things, which isn't wrong. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just offering a different solution to things, and hopefully, like I said, change your mindset a little bit. So here's the challenge with peel season. If you think keeping that mindset, we can only peel the few months of the year. It can actually interrupt your client's progress. Sometimes it's that client start, stop, and restart instead of following consistent, result driven plans. And that's what we're here for when we're in the treatment room. So creating fear around the spring and summer. And I mean, I used to be that way too. Say, no, you can't be using this in the summer months. And then a little bit of that challenge, that mindset. It's, well, wait a minute, let's shift this. I'm much better in the sun these days than I used to be at a younger age. It also comes with time and education, and you learn. But the other thing is it leads to that inconsistent treatment plan. So you're going to start peeling. We're going to go aggressive in that fall, winter time. And then, nothing for, and depending where you live, that could be 6 months of the year of not doing any kind of peels, we'll say. So that can kind of change that client progress. And again, as I mentioned, that stop and start skin cycle instead of consistency. So sun exposure versus risk management. So if you think about this, the first thing you should look at is risk management in any treatment you're doing with your clients. And that includes, okay, is there the sun? For sure. But if you're looking at the skin, have you not said no to a client for peels because their skin was not ready for it, or they were having too many issues with it? It was reactive. But if you think about it, the sun's present year round, even in the winter. You look at people who go outside walking and, skiing, that type of thing. They're outside. So, the risk is not necessarily the season, it's the client behavior as well. And what are they doing? What are their habits externally outside as well, right? So also the selection of the peel, and then the skin condition, what are we doing? And again, that overexposure post-peel, the issue, not the peel itself sometimes is what happens. So it's not necessarily the season that creates the risk. A client who doesn't wear SPF in the winter is at more risk than a well-managed client in the summer. So think about that. So what global practices show us, and I've seen this, and you question it and go, well, they're in conditions that are year-round sun. So if you think of, places like Australia, California, tropical clients, like when do they have a winter season? And I understand here, I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, so I definitely can tell you we have a fall-ish and a definite winter season all the time, and sometimes a spring-ish kind of thing, and a summer month, right? So, if the peels could only be done in fall and winter, these regions what would they do for peels? There's no case. So that's just the simple thing that's not going to happen. The difference is, how do you adapt to the treatments? How do you adapt their treatment? And that's something that they've been doing and always have, basically. So the real issue comes to, that education protocols and not season. I think the more educated we are and we go back to the science of the skin and what we're dealing with, whether it's extrinsic or intrinsic protocols of our skin, whether like that's the genetic side of things or the external things that come up. So problems occur when peels are too aggressive for the skin. And that's just, it doesn't matter if that's winter time. If it's too much for the skin, you're going to have that negative response that's going to happen anyways. Most likely the barrier is going to be compromised as well. And also we really need to hammer in that education for aftercare. When something goes wrong, it's rarely because of the season. It's usually because of, maybe poor client selection and over-aggressive treatment. Now, when I say poor client selection, is saying you are saying yes to a client for a peel when you know you shouldn't be doing it based on your training and education, the brand that you're using. That's something I should mention. This isn't brand specific. This is just general information. And I'll always lean to that. Talk to your distributor, talk to the brand educator on the questions you may have as well. That's what they're there for, right? So success comes from, that proper consultation. You always have to start with that consultation. It doesn't matter the season. And gradual progression is really good, important. That barrier first mindset always. And then you can lean into the safety going, oh, the barrier of your skin is looking a little, you're more red than usual. Like those are all, warning bells that you should be looking at. So think about those things before you start. So this is like a reframe for professionals. So every treatment should be based on, again, their skin conditions, their clients, your clients' habits and lifestyle, and what's the treatment goal. So again, peels are not necessarily seasonal, they're situational. So when you move away from that idea of peel season and start thinking in terms of skin conditions and strategy, we create safer treatments, better results, and more consistent client outcomes. So not the month of the calendar. So what does change? So let's talk about when you think about the seasons here. So increased sun exposure, pigmentation risks, right? Heat, well, that's going to lean into maybe inflammation, vascular reactivity of the skin. The humidity will most likely bring on that oil production, congestion may occur. And then in the winter months, that dryness and that barrier impairment that could happen. So you think of this, the summer or the spring, summer, fall, and winter kind of months. These can all partake, depending where you live, right across Canada. We all know our seasons are different. So we have to look at what are the things that are happening to the skin. So what doesn't change, if you think about it, skin doesn't suddenly become unable to tolerate peels in the summer. It just requires that different management. So we know that the skin cell turnover process isn't going to really change much. The skin's need for controlled exfoliation, importance of that barrier integrity, these things must be all considered. This isn't going to change. So when we think of the barrier, the next one, the barrier first approach to peels, the first thing is always to look at if the barrier isn't healthy, the peel isn't the answer. So you need to look at the barrier closely. What's going on with the skin? A compromised skin barrier, which protects against environmental damage, the presence of the chronic dryness or sensitivity, stinging of products could be, or even the redness that happens. Some other indicators can be that they're a little itchy. Maybe they break out or their acne is getting worse. The flaking of the skin or the roughness of texture. I mean, these are all part of your consultation to learn what's going on with the skin. And that's that barrier first approach always. And in all honesty, that's in all treatments that you do. It's often caused, from my experience, is usually over exfoliation, the harsher products, and again, environmental could be influenced as well. So when we look at, why over exfoliation is more common than under treatment and importance of pre-treatment prep. So a lot of times we're forgetting as professionals that we need to prep them before we're even doing a light exfoliation peel. If they haven't done anything for months and months, you're going to go in at a 30% of anything. I mean, that's a little aggressive. You want to make sure you have no adverse effects, that response of inflammation and maybe even pigmentation. So really, when you think about it, it's the pre-care, but also the post-care. And what are we going to do after the treatment itself? So a key message on this one is barrier health will determine whether a peel is appropriate, not the season. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record through this presentation. Sorry, click the wrong thing. Okay, so big question. So how do you adjust the peel protocols year round? So adjusting the strength and depth of the peel, absolutely. I mean, the likelihood of you doing a 50% or a 30% of anything in the summer months is probably not going to happen. However, again, each client's going to be different. So you want to look at, are you spot treating? What are you doing with the skin? So not every client needs a medium and aggressive peel. And again, that goes to what's the goal here of the skin. I had a quick story on this one. I had someone, and they're actually a professional, and insisted she really wanted the 50% glycolic. And I'm looking at her skin saying, Kate, tell me why you want a 50%. We're educating in a product line. She said, I just love that feeling. And I said, okay, let's retract back. Let's go back a little bit here. What are the goals to your skin? Yeah, but she had hardly anything for pigmentation. She had no scarring of the skin. I would say she was a light to medium thickness. And I couldn't understand what made her think that that's the way. But again, our education, just because you were taught one way, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even maybe by a brand, because that's how they're taught, that's what they're teaching. But again, just go back to all of it. It's like a puzzle. You need to look at everything. In the summer months, it's not about stopping peels, it's about respecting the skin. And really, that's all year round. That might mean choosing the lighter peel or reducing the number of layers, spot treat, maybe that's it, while still keeping to the client's progression, right? So the higher summer exposure, we want to lean into superficial, lower acid peels, fewer layers if you can. And again, listen, if you're working on scar tissue from acne and it's thick skin, more than likely those spots are going to be able to handle a stronger one, but you're not going to do it all over the skin. But again, you have the post-care involved. You're going to educate your client on these things. Avoid pushing the skin when it's already under that environmental stress. So maybe they're outside all the time and you have to tell them, well, it's just not the right time for you, but let's look at this when it would be. So don't say no straight out, give them the alternatives to what it is. So I want to hammer in here that progression over intensity is key with peels. It truthfully always has been. This isn't new. So we don't necessarily stop peels. We adjust how we perform them. And again, emphasize that progression over intensity. Tell your clients that, educate them that, lighter progressive peels and high sun exposure seasons, we have to watch this. It'll do, the opposite of what we want it to do for this skin. We want to avoid the aggressive treatments because the barrier is stressed or whatever those things you have to have conversations with your clients. Really, really important here. So instead of stopping, adjusting. So what does that look like? Okay, well, frequency is one. So more frequent, gentle treatments versus occasional aggressive peels. Maybe you can spread it out through the year so you don't need to end up with that one aggressive peel or two aggressive peels, fall and winter type of thing. So instead, think of it this way, like instead of, like I said, that one aggressive peel, maybe you want to shift to a series of lighter treatments throughout the year. Keep the skin active without overwhelming it. So you're not going to do anything to the barrier of the skin this way. That supports the risk, right? That's going to support the overall health of the barrier. You'll often get better results and safer results by doing more frequent, gentle treatments rather than pushing the skin with a one excessive peel. So instead of stopping peels, think of that adjusting. So layering combinations, like what are you pairing it with? Again, knowing your brand and what you're using, a lot of times they have other ingredients in there to help with the actual acid that's in the product. Or you look at what are they doing at home? Like, for example, if there's a lotion that has, only 2% glycolic in it and you're advising them to use it 2-3 times a week, are you pairing it with some calming after or hydrating so you don't want to jeopardize the barrier again? Avoid also, stacking those aggressive treatments together, especially in the warmer months. We're not going to do those aggressive peels like that. Honestly, this is where your professionalism is really going to show. Not in how many treatments you perform, but in knowing who's really appropriate to treat at that time. So example, if they're coming to see you monthly, that's a great client to have. Maybe you're going to do, the light peel versus 1-2 strong per season, or, those peel season times, as we call it. I do have a couple scenarios near the end of this that we'll kind of talk about. And then we can break out for the Q&A as well. So again, pairing your peels, like I said, maybe the next time is you're going to focus on that hydration. Can your peel that you're going to do on the client, can you do a hydration mask with it after? Like, what are you doing with them and how can you help their skin? Again, the barrier repair ingredients, think of those things that are going to help the skin maintain its natural support system so that it stays protected. You're not imbalancing the pH too aggressively, and allowing the skin to bounce back and not have that post response that goes, oh my God, it's been stripped. I got to now, your sebaceous gland starts kicking in and want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Secrete more oil because it's trying to help the barrier. That's the point. When we strip at high levels like that of peels, high acidity, you are stripping the skin. So what are you doing to rebalance that back? The other thing, can you bring in the red light therapy or an LED of some sort, or calming other modalities, cool gua sha stones to cool the skin down, whatever it may be to kind of fool the skin into not having that response. So you want to think of supporting the skin and not stressing it. So adjusting again, think of the home care. It's non-negotiable. If your clients don't want to listen to you, then I would not be doing the peels on them. And you have to have that honest conversation. Be empathetic. I understand we need to have, we are in this industry because we care for the people, and that's what we're trying to do for them. But it's non-negotiable. I tell them, when you're ready to use sunscreen every day, then we can talk about peels. That's something, it could just be that confidence, saying it directly to them. SPF's mandatory daily, consistently. Maybe it's a few times a day if they're outside all the time. These are things that you have to educate your client on. Simplify the routines if needed, so we're not over exfoliating at home. What other products do your clients have at home that could jeopardize or impact the barrier from you doing the peels on them? So readjust. And this is your job. You're prescribing them products, you're selling them products for home care, then you need to help guide them through. And it's not, oh God, you have to stop with this retinol. It's like, okay, we're going to put that to the side for now, and we'll reintroduce it at blank, blank, blank time, right? So, you can't out-treat poor home care, right? They have to be on board with it. If your clients aren't supporting their home care, right, their skin with at home, then you could do the best in treatment that you could possibly give them, but they're not going to get the results either. So guys, it's something you have to bring into this, and that's something you just need to keep educating them on. So again, broken record here, guys. Barrier repair, hydration, right? Skin recovery. Think of these simple things that can help the skin. The other thing is we need to adjust to our clients' expectations and sometimes our own. So as I mentioned, that one person who wanted that extreme peel just because she liked the feel of it made no sense to me with what I was seeing in her skin. That's an example. But client communication is, on first point, you need to be talking to your clients and explaining these things. If you're not confident in it, you're not 100% sure, you need to push yourself out of the comfort zone. Get uncomfortable so you become comfortable. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it, is to keep talking, and you'll find your words. And you'll learn from the clients. Responding back or asking the questions will help you in the future with your clients as well. Okay, so results might be slower in spring and summer, but at least it's not stopped. Focus shifts from correction to maintenance and control. And that's what you can say. We're not going to correct right now, but we're going to maintain and control what we've done. Educate your clients on why you're adjusting these things. So sometimes the shift isn't just the treatment, it's the conversation, right? So just explain to your clients, helping clients understand that, we're maintaining and protecting progress here is just as important as corrective time as well. So decision making. So before every peel, you want to ask, even as to yourself, what's the current state of the skin barrier? What has the client been exposed to recently? So sun, other treatment, what actives are they using? What's the goal right now? Is this corrective or maintenance? So every peel decision should come back to the three things: the condition of the skin, recent exposure, and the client's current goal. That's what guides us to safe, effective treatment planning. So when you understand how to adjust strength, frequency, combinations, and client selection, you don't need a peel season. You now have a treatment strategy for your clients. So, number 5, safe summer peels. What does this actually look like? So, summer is more for that maintenance and control, not correction overload. So, choose the right peel type, the mild AHAs. Maybe you're doing enzyme blends, low acids. Avoid that high risk scenario of potentially, that recent sun exposure, their poor habits with SPF, sensitive skins. Maybe they're just more sensitive in general, right? You set the client's expectations. The results may be more gradual. So you tell them this isn't going to be, correction. This is progression, nice and slow. We're going to focus on the maintenance and progression, not aggressive correction. So keeping peels on your menu, that's the key here, is instead of just calling it a peel season, it actually brings up that professionalism for you too, because then you actually understand your products, of what you're carrying and how to do it and what you can offer them. So business plus treatment strategy. I think there needs to be more strategy in the treatment room from us as professionals. So just shift the language, from peel season to customized treatment planning, or we're going to do correction right now, or we're going to do maintenance right now. So we keep these things. You can still offer your progressive peels, right? Like you can do those programs with them for sure. Or if you are doing the slow kind of progression, then what other services can you offer with it to keep things hydrated, calm facials? Can you add in other modalities to the skin? We really want to educate the clients, because this builds trust, which equals that retention. They'll come back to you. And that's a huge part. So when you understand how to adapt, peels become year-round services, really. It's not just seasonally, at one time. So key takeaways, just to kind of reframe everything again here. Peels are not seasonal, they're situational. Skin changes with environment, but fundamentals remain the same. And barrier first approach is safer and better results. Adjust strength and frequency and client selection, not just cancel treatments. So when you understand the skin and how to adapt your approach, you can confidently offer chemical peels all year round. They're going to be safe, effective, and professional. So think about the consultation, always a thorough consultation. Even if you think, you're not going to sit there, go point by point by point with your form, but you can review it with them quickly in that consultation, especially if you have regular clients. Again, that's showing you're doing kind of a reset or a pause for a moment. So you're building, again, trust, confidence with your clients with that. You're going to educate your clients. You're going to, again, tell them again how to prep for this, or maybe you're sending them home with pre-treatments to prep for the treatments. You're adjusting in the seasonal months of what they should be doing with their actives at home. Clear communication is so important, especially, again, that aftercare always. Again, build that transparency with your clients really helps. And, active listening. Sometimes we're not actually listening to our clients. So just because you told them, okay, you got to use SPF every day. Okay, yeah, I will. And then you carry on your treatment, you get into a conversation, and then they're telling you how, they can't wait for summer because they love to golf 5 times out of the week. That should be a red flag for you, hearing that, or at least a pause in the moment saying, oh, okay, so you mean to tell me you're going to go to the golf course, which takes how many hours to get around in, and depending which course they're on, they're going to be exposed in the sun. So that's the point where you pause, say, okay, are you going to be wearing a hat the whole time and use your sunscreen? And you're probably going to have to reapply after an hour. So this is where you over kind of kill that extra, education, if you wish, with your client, really watching. with the skin. So again, it's okay to pause for a moment, just really listen to what they're telling you, what they're about to do. I've had clients that say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's winter, back when I used to just do it through seasons, as they say, peel season. And then I find out a client's like, did it in, November into December, and the family's going away to Hawaii for the winter, like for Christmas break. And I'm like, oh no. So now from years ago, I adjusted my consultation with them. Say, any plans this winter holidays? What do you like to do in the winter? I just want to know what kind of sun you're exposed to. And you can be that blunt to them as well, right? Okay, moving into our next segment, a couple scenarios of what we'll do. So this is kind of some real things that have happened in probably your practice. I know it's happened in mine. And these things come up probably in your questions. So I'm hoping I'm targeting a few of them for you as well. So it could be a little different approach. But again, you're going to see the same kind of treatment categories throughout this one. So the first one, let's talk about acne-prone congested skin. So what are we going to do? We know typically, could be other things, but the skin's probably going to be oily, congested. Breakouts are typical, T-zone, jawline, maybe cheeks, of course. But in the end goal, they want clarity and smoother texture. So in the spring, we're going to do that gentle, clarifying treatments, or peels, I should say, rebalance the skin post-winter skin, right? So this is the reset season, not aggressive correction yet, because you're just coming out of winter. So if we then move into summer, and I chose it this way because we're kind of in the spring or fast approaching it, I think, if the snow would go away. The summer, the light, maybe more frequent peels, but very light. You're focusing on control and SPF compliance with your clients. So we want to maintain control here and not push that intensity in the summer, for sure not. In the fall, this is where you can start looking to gradually bring on the strength. Again, this is the safety protocols to not do that strong aggressive right off the gate. Is that coming out of summer into fall. So then you can target that congestion. You can maybe target the post-acne marks that are there. So this is where we can start correcting more deeply, but gradually increasing that strength. And again, remember, winter, just because the skin, it's wintertime and you can do it, you still want to double check. The skin can become dehydrated at this time, depending where they live, despite the oiliness. So you always need to have hydration. I've done that with clients. So you're too hydrated for a peel. So I'm going to do a hydration treatment. Let's get that going. And then I'll see you, in a week or 2 weeks or whatever that may be, depending what you did, what brands you're carrying, what you're using, then you might be able to carry on a peel after. But you need to be okay with adjusting. So avoid that stripping of the skin. So don't overstrip. You want to support the barrier while treating. Okay. While treating the skin, the acne is still fine. And then maybe you can add things to their home care to help with the hydration and keep it up. Because as soon as you strip the oil, if there's no hydration, this is where the post-inflammatory, this is again through, strong peels, but other things can happen because the lipid barrier is not healthy. Now, you're seeing here, I'm not talking brands at all through this. It's just generally looking physiology of the skin, what's going on with it in the season. And if we're dealing with a client with acne or breakouts, that type of skin, acne prone, then what can we do all year for them? Another one in the treatment room, hyperpigmentation, or maybe that uneven skin tone. Typically, it's the sun damage, uneven tone of the skin. It could be post-inflammatory pigmentation. It depends what's happening with the skin. It could be hormonal. Like we all know what brings on hyperpigmentation. So the goal usually is that brighter and even out that complexion. So what does that look like in the spring? So you still want to assess any recent sun exposure, right? So because the spring, I don't know about you guys, but out here, as soon as it's nice, I want to get outside walking. And that could be early in the morning, it could mid-afternoon, it could be evening, but is the sun, how much sun is that person getting, right? So begin progressive brightening peels. You assess that sun exposure habits right away. And again, just because you told them in the winter doesn't mean they're going to remember in the spring. So, we're going to sound like broken records, but they'll eventually get it. They'll be hearing. I've had clients over the years, okay, yeah, I hear Suzanne's voice all the time when I'm about to go outside. Where's my hat and sunscreen? I got to get it on. So we're easing into correction while supporting sun habits here. In the summer months, we have that risk of that high pigmentation risk to the UV. So again, very gentle treatments here, maintenance only. If you are doing some sort of a gentle peel, again, that could be an enzyme. That could be something, maybe a very low glycolic. But the big thing here is that SPF is, again, non-negotiable with these clients. So they have to be using it. You want to make sure they understand this is maintenance and prevention, not aggressive correction. So we cannot spot treat if that's the case on these pigmentations. But, with your brands, this is where you bring the triazinoid inhibitors and things like that. So you're still supporting what the overall goal is to your client here with hyperpigmentation. In the fall, maybe we get to start doing those corrective peel series now. Again, you're going to slowly increase the strength gradually. It's really important that this is your window to start correcting, but you still want to make sure it's gradual so you don't have any post issues after treatment. Winter months with the hyperpigmentation, uneven skin tones. So you can continue at this point with your corrective treatments. Again, winter, depending where you live, you really want to monitor the dryness throughout their barrier. So correcting, but not compromising the skin. So keep that in mind when you're working with clients like that. So your, key takeaway with a client like this would be preventive summer and corrective fall winter, maintain consistently, and helping guide them with the products that they're using at home. So explain why you're introducing these things. And then another person, the sensitive people. Listen, sensitive people still think, they still want to have peels. They might not quite understand what's going on with their skin. And I put compromised barrier because typically, that's what's happening with a lot of clients. Sensitive, not vascular, like not saying because you start cleansing their skin and they go pink. That's just a vascular response. I'm talking sensitive clients that when they really feel the activity of the product, the ingredients that you're using, they're sensitive to heat or cold changes. Or you have the other side where they're compromised barrier skin is a reactive state. So their skin profile here would probably be the redness, sensitivity that easily irritated by climate change or maybe actives of your products. Or the other side is, and typically nowadays, thanks to our online presence out there, is a lot of times clients are overdoing it. They're doing too much at home and they've aggravated their skin by using strong products and over exfoliating without even realizing that they're actually exfoliating. So the goal here is to calm the skin, strengthen, and improve the tolerance of the skin. So you can rebuild the barrier. You keep hearing about this microbiome, and the skin. Well, it's all part of your barrier. So in the spring, you want to focus on the barrier first side of things. So skin will be recovering from the winter here. Delay peels if needed. So maybe they're not going to have a peel. That's okay. Sometimes, as you've heard me say, it's not best to peel. So just say no, not yet. It's okay. You're not saying no forever. No one likes to hear no or can't have. They think they're being excluded, right? So just say not yet. Let's just focus on the skin and get it back. Like maybe it just needs a good hydration. That's typically what happens with sensitive skins coming out of winter months. That's for sure. So come summer, again, remember environmental, I mentioned that the heat and the sun increases that reactivity of the skin, or activity of the skin. So only using mild exfoliation. You're going to guide the client how often you're recommending at home and what are you doing in the treatment room as well. So prioritize that calming and protection to the skin is really important here. And, very mild enzyme peel, or maybe even a low lactic base, because it's such a large molecule, potentially could be. Again, I'm not saying this is the right thing. It's based on your brand and what they offer. Okay. So you need to reach out to your distributor, as I've mentioned, or the brand educator and see what they can tell you about it, or open up your manual because it could just be in your booklet with all of your tech information from your brand. So only treat if the skin is stable. Otherwise, you're going to be supporting at this time in the summer. In the fall, potentially, maybe you can do some very gentle peels, very slow. Again, this includes home care. What are they doing at home? So slowly you're going to build through that tolerance over time, right? You're slowly rebuilding to the skin. So really think about progression and not performance here. I know, because we were told fall and winter you can peel. Well, let's take a look at the skin again, right? So winter time. And again, where do you live? What are your clients exposed to in the winter months? So you want to space out the treatments. They're sensitive. You're rebuilding, your focus is rebuilding barrier here. So you want to think of the high risk first for that barrier impairment. Are they, is it risky right now? Are you focusing potentially, most likely, is hydration and repair? Alongside, you could do some light exfoliation, as I mentioned, maybe, but this is where overdoing can cause the setbacks in the skin just because it's peel season. So again, you don't want to overdo it because again, the setbacks can happen. I want you to really think of barrier health determines if and when you peel all year round. All right, my friends, I am going to just recap quickly. Is about consultation, educating your clients, clear communication, active listening that you can do with your clients as well. I'm going to go into Q&A in a minute here, so you can start adding your questions to the chat, or if you want to unmute, we'll get to that in a quick moment. Otherwise, I want to tell you really quick, again, I always thank you for joining us live. We really appreciate that. And just save the date for the next one. It's May 13th. And keep learning and growing. And I'm going to stop sharing. And then we can dive into any questions you may have. I'm just going to reset up here so I can see the chat as well. If anyone does have a question, feel free to unmute yourself if you would like. I did save it's about 15 minutes of time here because I kind of thought I might be challenging you with me saying peel season all year round. Hopefully it made sense to what I was saying. And again, I want to emphasize this wasn't about a brand presentation at all. I know, we're always using different ones and type of thing, and that's okay, but it's really just taking it back again and understanding what we're doing with the products and that. Does anyone want to share any comments? Oh, did someone unmute?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to say thank you. It actually kind of gave me a little more confidence about the spring and summer, because I was a little bit worried about it, but now I'm feeling a little more confidence.
Good. Excellent. Glad to hear that.
Concentrating on the maintenance side of it and not more of the correction. So
yeah, and it doesn't help in our society. It's all about correcting hard and fast, and it's out there. So it's okay to just bring them back and educate and say, okay, we can get there maybe, but let's start here. Or if you keep educating them and you stick to what your protocols are and you know it,
Yeah.
They will listen. It takes time, but they'll
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah. And that's honestly, I think the main thing I'm getting out of this right now is that I just need to put more confidence in the spring and summer and not be so nervous, as you can say.
Yeah. And do you reach out to, like I said, we weren't going to focus on brands. This is really about trying to support professionals across the land, as they say. And so then always look back at your tech manual. If you can't get your answer there, reach out to your educator of the brand or the
100%.
distributor, whoever that may be, and just do a check-in. It's okay. I mean, hopefully they're there to support you, right?
What is the May 13th? Is it the same thing or is something else?
No, it'll go out in a newsletter.
Okay.
We'll do something different all the time. That's our
Of
goal.
course, I just was kind of hoping for a little.
A little tidbit of it. It'll come
Yeah.
out in a newsletter.
Awesome. Okay.
Just save the date for now, okay?
Okay. Sounds good.
Excellent. Anybody else have any questions or comments they'd like to share? Doreen's putting in the chat, because you registered for this session, you will get the first announcement on the next session. So do double check. I know with the newsletters from us, they can be quite a few going, but we'll try to, really stand out when the watch and learns are, that type of thing. So then you can see. But that's why I want to give you a date ahead of time. We're going to try to do this once a month for the remainder of 2026. That's our goal. And if you do have suggestions or any ideas, feel free to just reply to that email, and we'll take a look at that as well, because that's what we're here for. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording. And if some of you are shy and want to jump on after, I do have a couple minutes. So thank you so much for those that came and joined live. We do appreciate that, because then there's real people behind this, and I'm not just staring into an empty camera space. But yeah, stay in touch. And like I said, any questions or things come up, reach out. We're here for you. Have a great rest of your day.